That was horrible.
So this movie started out with Isaac going like, hey, Derek, let's watch this movie. It'll be fun. And then you were like...
No.
No. And then...
I don't want to.
Fast forward to... how long was the movie?
62 hours.
62 hours long. Fast forward 62 hours later. And then Derek was like...
Dude, that was a blast.
And then Isaac was looking into the distance longingly with dread.
Well, I don't know what's so dreadful about the distance.
So much. All I can see are wolves and terrible CGI and just a lot of sexism.
There's a lot of sexism in the distance.
A lot of it going on.
Luckily, I would say that the distance is behind us that you're looking at.
It's gone now. I'm trying to put it in my rear view now at this point.
So this week, we've been kind of switching off who picks which movie, and Isaac is a huge fan of, and I have to read it every time, An American Werewolf in London.
Yes. Great movie. Wonderful effects by the great Rick Baker. Can do no wrong. It's wonderful.
I have never seen it. And we discussed it a little bit, and we were like, well, maybe, Derek, you don't need to see it because Isaac has seen it, and this will create a dissonance between us, which would be good.
Yeah, exactly. And I know it well enough. It's one of my comfort horror movies, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been talking about it since the day I met you. Like, I think the first sentence you ever said to me, I shook your hand. You're like, American Werewolf in... I have to read it.
In London.
An American Werewolf in London.
Yes, exactly. I've been trying to get him to watch it ever since.
Yeah. And it's good that I avoided it.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, though, that we watched this movie before we watched An American Werewolf in London.
So the movie in question is An American Werewolf in Paris. Let me give you a little bit of tidbits about this honky-dory of a movie. So American Werewolf in Paris came out in 1997. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 7% for the critics.
Love it.
And 30% for the audience.
They loved it more.
They definitely loved it a little bit more. The Metacritic rating is sitting at a 31, and the IMDb is at 5.1, and Letterboxd, which I thought we'd add in, is 2.2.
Oof.
So
big oof.
It is technically a sequel to An American Werewolf in London. But it is not. Is it even really related?
Not even slightly.
Okay.
Because I feel like, Derek, did you feel like you were missing anything by not having watched An American Werewolf in London for seeing this? Yeah.
Nah, dude. And I don't even feel like I need to see the other one because I'm capped out.
We had found enough about it that was like, yes, it is technically a sequel, but technically not a sequel.
Yeah.
Then the opening credits, though, it does tell you that it is like based off of, characters and storylines from the book An American Werewolf in London, so at least they have that. That's pretty much the connecting line. They are both set in the UK and they have wolves.
That's it. That's all you need. So it was directed by Anthony Waller. He has done absolutely nothing. He has done 7 movies. He produced 7, directed 7. That's it. They are all things I don't recognize.
Sure.
Maybe there's something in there. It was based on the original characters by John Landis. But Tim Burns and Tom Stern wrote the script for this one. Tim Burns.
I have some words to say to them, I think.
Here, I have their numbers written down if you want to give them a call.
Oh, perfect.
Tim Burns wrote something called My Babysitter is a Vampire.
It feels very much in the same vein. I
want to watch it. Can we watch that? Tom Stern hasn't written anything in particular, but he is working on a movie about the butthole surfers. So
you can't just say that.
It's a band
and walk away from that. What do you mean?
It's a band.
That's it.
Band,
That's all the information you have for me.
That's all you need.
Are you telling me you know more?
There's a band. They're called the Butthole Surfers.
Well, give me how do one of their songs go?
Butthole.
You're right, Derek. I'm sorry I ever doubted you.
No, listen. I have listened to them in my life. You have as well. Maybe I'm wrong.
You're like playing them subliminally to me while I sleep.
I might be.
Oh gosh.
Going back to hold on. I need to read it. An American Werewolf in Paris.
Paris is the other one. Yeah.
They had a $25 million budget. $25 million.
Where did it go?
But it only grossed $26 million.
That honestly makes sense that it would be so much money because there is a hefty scene in the movie that takes place on the Eiffel Tower. Probably costs a pretty penny to rent that out.
I don't know if they rented the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, they did.
What? No way. It looked so fake.
We could talk about that later.
Okay, that's a shocking occurrence. So let's go into our expectations. You go first, since you're very fond of the
I was
material.
Very excited because I love An American Werewolf in London. So I'm like, okay, hopefully this is anything like that one. So I was really expecting some fun practical effects. Yeah. That's just a given, right? Of course. Because, the standard was set through the roof with Rick Baker, the effects artist in American Werewolf in London. We got to come up with like a shorter name for this. What's AAWIP? Awip. Yep. I felt like it was going to have absolutely nothing to do with the original. I thought the story was going to be awful. I could tell it wasn't going to be great. This is another instance where we watched the trailer beforehand and ooh boy. I just wrote maybe sexism, something about the way the trailer given me the vibes, especially since it looks like the main werewolf in the movie was a woman. Yeah. And it seems you don't really pay much attention to that, but it's like I think most werewolf characters are men. Yeah, they are. Like the starting werewolf or like the one that is centered around, So I'm like, there's probably going to be a lot of sexism in this movie. And I figured it will be bad, but I will have a good time. Okay, that's an interesting expectation. Yeah. So I only had 3 expectations going into this movie. I had horrible CGI. I had a feeling. And also, when we watched the trailer, the like minute and a half trailer, I saw glimpses of the CGI, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna be bad." And then cringeworthy dialogue was one that I really expected. But you know what I expected the most? Excessive werewolf nudity. It was more than an expectation. It was a hope. Aren't werewolves always nude? And I just wanted some werewolf butt and dong. And maybe some werewolf boob. You've been spoiled by Wolf Cop, I think. I have. Those were my 3 expectations for this one. So let's jump in. Isaac, would you mind just giving a quick, brief rundown of An American Werewolf? An American Werewolf in London. Yes. I don't know why it's so hard to basically, and it's been a minute since I've seen this movie. I think I'm actually due for a rewatch of this, and you were absolutely joining me for this one. Okay. But basically, there are touring students who are from America. Obviously, they come to London, and they are basically their first night there attacked by a werewolf. It mauls one of the 2, and then the other one actually ends up surviving. But he is attacked, he is bitten, and becomes a werewolf himself, right? And so it is basically his struggles of being a werewolf. His friend comes back to him as a corpse and is like trying to convince him to kill himself so he does not infect other people. There's a girl involved, it's just a lot of fun. Werewolf chaos ensues from there. I don't want to say too much. It's a great movie. You just need to go see it. Okay. I feel like I'm on board. Yeah, so then we start in this movie, and I knew we were off to a great start because everywhere we can find this movie, it is called An American Werewolf in Paris. An American Werewolf in Paris. And the first thing, the title flashes up on the screen, it just says American Werewolf in Paris. Where's the Anne? Who messed up? We both, when we saw the title, like fervently searched on our computers. We're like, what is the title? Is Anne there? Yes. But Anne was missing. Anne is everywhere except the movie. Anne, you okay? Anne, are you okay? Before we continue, I do need to give a little bit of a, I guess not really a content warning. This movie felt PG, even though it has an R rating. But just so everyone is aware, we will be discussing things like goring people and some blood sequences. Content warning. Derek told me that the movie was rated R about halfway through the movie, and I was shocked to hear that, and I spent the rest of the movie looking for where it could be anything that would make it R. I did not find it. It was like searching for a needle in a haystack. Yes, exactly. Like I just wanted could it not bring that up? You know what I mean? And obviously, spoiler warning. We're not even gonna try to hide things. It opens up on some great shots of like this cool looking Gothic church. Oh, it's a cool house. Yeah. Derek sees these cool shots of like this Notre Dame-esque church. He goes, cool house. And I just look at him and say, a church? It's a cool house. But yeah, we get a great sequence. Well, great is a stretch. We get a sequence of a man running away from what we can only assume to be the werewolf. And we get these shots that establish that these werewolves have like this werewolf vision. Oh, yeah. Where it's basically like if you took regular shots of the movie and put like this like grainy red yellow filter over it. And like some things, it's like when you see heat vision, some things are glowing a bit more. But I don't know what that was.
I don't know what that was.
What exactly was the wolf seeing? Because it didn't look very, I don't know, very planned, very well.
You know what I think it is? I was thinking about this during the movie. Is like, you know how dogs pee on things to like mark their territory? Yeah. I think that's what dogs see. So they're like walking around and they're like, everything's gray, but then there's like a big splotch of yellow
glows
somewhere.
At
like,
them.
Ooh, that's someone else's territory.
Yeah, that's a no-no for me. So it was an interesting opening sequence, I guess. You don't see anything in gore. Sure. Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, maybe this could be something. And then we open up on the Americans of An American Werewolf in Paris, right?
So American.
And it's exactly. They're like, how do we establish that these are American men? I know, tank tops and alcohol.
Oh my
goodness.
That is
the best way. They're being rowdy and obnoxious on a train on their way to Paris, right?
Really,
kind of being mean to the wait staff and just kind of like being obnoxious white American men.
Really though, like that was all you could glean from these people.
Yeah, exactly. And they're talking about like one of the ladies on the train that they think is attractive.
Yeah. And they got 20 sex points.
Yeah, 20 sex points. If you could, I think it was like if you could talk to her or something like that. We're like, 20 sex points? What is this? Did anyone ever use this term in 97 or in history at all?
I don't think they did.
No.
I think that's made up.
Yeah, but these friends are kind of like, I don't know, they're kind of rude to each other always. It does not seem like they're actually good friends. So I'm like, am I supposed to care about when like they inevitably die later? Yeah. Like, is that going to be a plot point for the main character? Because if so, I'm going to be taken out of it.
Really, though?
Because it doesn't seem like they like each other.
I never got that feeling, like, at all.
No.
It's like they met each other on the street and like just started bullying each other. Hey, let's go to Paris.
Yeah, and so clearly like the other two are more like raunchy men who are like, yeah, we had sex with women and we brag about it all the time. And the other one's like a little more soft spoken. He's like, no, I'm the gentleman of the group, right? But still kind of with them. They don't seem like they should be friends, the three of them.
Over the top of this whole thing is only what I can describe as royalty-free 90s music.
Oh, Lord. It was so bad.
I think that's all we need to say about it, honestly. Like, it was just so shockingly bad.
It ruined the genre that it attempted to be. Like, honestly, there are times where, like, I don't know if I could consider this a horror movie beyond the fact that there are werewolves and they kill people.
It kind of felt like a rom-com.
Really, though, I felt like it could not decide whether or not it wanted to be a rom-com or a horror movie. You know, like it seemed like there were two people always at odds in the writing of this movie. We're like, oh, this is gonna be cute. We're gonna throw this like fun little bantery 90s music on top of it, and then like no, we need to show this like gruesome werewolf killing someone, you know?
Really though,
it just could not pick a genre, and I didn't like either of them.
So for some reason that they're at the Eiffel Tower now, we don't really. At least I did missed it maybe.
Well, like when they're talking in the train, they're kind of giving the friend crap, right? They're like, oh come on, when was the last time you had sex with a girl? And then like very cryptically, he's like, just you guys wait. Once we get to Paris, I'll show you a trick you'll never forget, or something stupid like that. What on earth? So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna impress these dudes who like he doesn't seem to like.
No, really.
He's gonna impress these dudes by doing this big stunt off of the Eiffel Tower, which they break onto.
Yeah.
There's a whole sequence with like this more of like this wild royalty-free 90s music of them like scaling the Eiffel Tower.
And Isaac's being a little tame here. While they were climbing the Eiffel Tower, this song was dreadful. We get to the end and Isaac's like, wait. Go back. I literally made a note. Isaac made me rewind so he could Shazam the shitty music. And so we're just sitting there having to rewatch this terrible scene. Isaac's standing there with his hand in the air like he's at a freaking rave.
Nothing. No result. Nope.
Nothing.
Never been heard of before. Shazam has never seen this movie.
No, really though.
And thankful for Shazam. That's great. But like, there's no security around the Eiffel Tower at all. There's no like stealth heist little moment where they're like, we have to dodge our way around security or distract them somehow. They're just on it somehow.
They're just there.
And there's the sequence where they're getting all the way to the top. And then the friend who's going to do this stunt is sitting there doing like math about he's doing like Eiffel Tower math.
Really though. And it's like, oh my goodness. It reminded me of that meme with all of the like
the lady
problems.
sitting there with the math flying around her. She looks all confused. And it's just funny to me because I'm like, what is this math going to do? You're not going to change anything. Because what we can gather right now is he's going to try to bungee jump off the top of the Eiffel Tower, right? And it's like, okay, what is this math going to change for you? Are you going to somehow like masterfully change the trajectory that you're jumping? I don't know if you have that in you. Do you have that ability?
Right. Yeah. He definitely felt he had that ability.
Really though. And then like there have been a couple instances of it before, but right here, like the green screen was a character of its own in the fact that it was so bad.
But if they were actually on the Eiffel Tower,
that's what I want to know.
Why did they just record the stuff that was outside the
I
Eiffel
assume it had to
Tower?
have been some kind of mixture of like, used like actual shots of them being on the Eiffel Tower, and then probably the longer sequences of like had to build a set that looked like the Eiffel Tower.
So $10 million went to the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, exactly.
The other $10 million went to the effects
to faking the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, exactly.
They get back to the studio. Oh no, we forgot showing him jumping off the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, exactly. Oh shoot, we can't go back. So yeah, then he's about to jump. His friends are like, no, he's not. One friend is like, he's not going to do it. The other one actually cares about him. He's like, no, come on, don't do this.
He says he's laying down and he's like, come have some va, bro.
You will never guess what va stands for.
It has to be vodka, right?
Vodka.
That's my guess. It's the only thing I can guess.
Just are these things people say? Do they really say these things to
I say that all the time. I don't know what you're talking about.
Honest though. But yeah, so like the one friend is trying to talk him out of doing this stunt. And it doesn't really explain why he wants to do this so bad. I don't understand what he's trying to prove or anything like this, or like what his plans are after the fact. But he's gonna bungee jump off the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
And so he's about to like tie it off to something where they hear like a sound of someone coming up. And so they run and hide, and then they find a girl. This lovely Paris girl who is standing on the edge holding a note in her hand, and they're like, oh no, she's gonna jump off, right?
Yeah.
So then he like runs up to her and just like every line he says is the worst delivery.
No.
She's about to jump. He goes, no, don't,
please.
I don't understand how this happened, because there were times where I saw like the audio lined up with their mouths fine, but it seemed like every single piece of dialogue was added and recorded after they had filmed it.
Oh my goodness.
There was something about the quality of it. It was just terrible. Mm-hmm. So like I couldn't take any of it seriously, because it felt like it was like The Room.
Yeah.
Like if you watch, watch that movie,
though.
none of that syncs up, and it's just like it really pulls you out of the entire thing. You can never rest in it. Yeah. That's kind of how this one felt. And so, yeah, it was so bad there. And so she ends up jumping, and him with a bungee cord around him thinks not a second longer and jumps after her, right? Yeah. And the effects in this scene are brutal.
It's just like one of the worst scenes I've ever seen in my life.
I think you were definitely right about the bad CGI and your expectations, because oof.
Oh boy.
And so then they had some thrill here, because he forgot to tie off the rope at the top.
Oh no!
And so his friends quickly jump towards it and hold onto it, and then get slammed into the side of the Eiffel Tower. Their arms would be broken.
No, they're fine.
Absolutely.
No. They're fine.
And they are. They're fine.
fine.
So he ends up being able to like slow her descent enough to drop her off at the bottom, but he like takes one of her shoes on his way back up, like she's Cinderella or something.
I just love that.
And then he hits his head somewhere up higher on like one of the edges of the Eiffel Tower,
because he didn't get his trajectory right.
Yeah, exactly. He messed up the trajectory. Maybe
he didn't get to check it.
If he had done his math based on jumping after a girl jumping off, then maybe things would have been
okay. That changes everything. That changes the whole algorithm, man.
Exactly.
Don't you know?
So then he wakes up in the hospital.
And so he wakes up, first thing he hears, talk about falling for a girl.
And his friends are like smacking him on the side of the head, because that's the first, you get a POV of him like waking up, the vision's all foggy, and his friends are kind of like smacking the side of like the camera, I guess. And then you get a glimpse of him. He's like covered in bandages and stuff. Like, why would you be smacking this man around who just hit his head harder than ever on the Eiffel Tower?
I am convinced, and I'm going to call Mythbusters to get back together to do an episode for me.
Just for this.
Because there is no way you could survive that.
No!
Let alone coming out of that with just a bandage over your head.
And it does not seem like that much time has passed. I think it has only been the night that he was out.
Maybe a few hours.
Because he wakes up in the daytime now, because that all happened at night. So, I mean, at this point, it must have been a couple hours, right?
Yeah.
They were probably up super late doing that.
Oh my goodness.
But it's so, I don't know where to go. I'm so distraught about this movie.
No, you're good. Literally, that whole thing just blew our minds that he was still alive.
Yeah, and he was fine pretty much after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets up, he sees the girl.
Mm-hmm. He
dressed
finds
in
her,
a nurse's
she's working
costume.
at the hospital as a nurse. So he goes to like hunt her down while he tells his other friends, he's like, hey, I have this shoe, which by the way, how does he have that?
I don't know.
After being flung back up to the top of the Eiffel Tower, hitting his head, that shoe would have fallen. He would not have that shoe anymore.
So my theory is that he did die and rigor mortis kicked in. And it held onto the
this,
shoe.
Like, death grip in his hand.
like really tight.
Yeah, okay.
Then they brought him back to life successfully.
Also, when he wakes up in the ICU, there's a bunch of like kids running around.
Oh yeah.
Like,
for no
messing
reason.
with people. It's like, who lets kids play around in the ICU?
I think they filmed that shot in a daycare.
It seemed like it, honestly. It's like we have to share the space with a daycare. We're just gonna make it work.
So he starts chasing after the nurse, obviously.
And again, this movie is scored like it's a sitcom. It's terrible. The music is the worst use of any kind of scoring in a horror film I've ever seen. And again, nothing horror has happened at this point. We're like
scared.
15 minutes deep into this movie.
I was really scared.
What were you scared about?
Yeah, the heights from the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, yeah, you and your fear of heights. That's what it was.
I'm afraid of jumping off things. I'm not afraid of heights, but I'm afraid of jumping.
And all the dialogue in this movie, nobody can take it seriously. It feels like it was ghost wrote by the Animaniacs. It was so...
Oh my goodness, really though. So he sees her down the hall. She's holding a bag with a heart in it. And he doesn't
like a Ziploc looking bag.
Yeah, he doesn't even care. He's in front of a sign that says open heart surgery, which is apparently a whole thing in this hospital. It was just wild. He finally passes out on the ground. And then his friends find him. And somehow they're able to find where she lives.
Yeah.
Did he even explain that?
I think they found, he sent the friends away to go try to find her because they were like, she was writing a note, right? So go look around for a note.
Yeah.
So there's like a sequence of them, very comedic style sequence of them trying to look around the shoulders of people in like the surrounding area of the Eiffel Tower, just like looking over the shoulders trying to see, is this the note? No, they're digging through the trash to try to find the note. They find her note, which I guess has her address on it. Why? It was such a quick shot I couldn't read it, honestly. I couldn't see what was on the note.
We should have Shazammed it.
Yeah. Keep in mind also with his bandages that was on his head, he had this big Band-Aid X on the top of it, as if to be like, this is where he got hit, by the way. And that Band-Aid moved like 4 times.
At least.
The continuity of that was rough.
It looks like the person who did his makeup for the scene was like just a tech. And he was like, I found these Band-Aids. I found these bandages. They just wrapped him and then they're like, oh, put some grip tape on his head to keep it all in place.
But yeah, so like he tries to chase after the girl in the hospital. She ends up escaping him and he's like, I think he passes out. Is that what happens?
Yeah, he passes out.
Or they take him away or something like that. Either way, it's like, it's a new day now and they're trying to go to her house. And this movie just feels like an episode of Goosebumps if they were never any good.
Yeah.
Like if it had gotten rid of everything that made those good.
Right. Oh my goodness. So yeah, they show up to her house, sorry.
Yes.
And they ring this like super cool like chain doorbell with like a cool little ringing bell on it.
Probably the neatest portion
nice
of the movie.
Nice little demon on it. It was really cool. She opens the door, like a little crack. You know, she would never open the door all the way. No,
yeah,
not someone as mysterious.
She's hiding something in there.
She's covered in blood. She's wearing a Dexter-style apron.
But she tells them it's paint. She's painting. She's a painter,
Oh,
obviously.
of course, yes.
French painter.
And so what do the boys say? Oh, yeah, girl, we could come in and help you. Oh, also, he doesn't have bandages on his head anymore.
Yeah,
he's just wearing a bandana.
He's not even, like, bruised up anymore.
No,
he
looks
completely fine.
Like, none of that ever happened.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you hadn't, like, slammed your head into a big metal structure. It's fine.
I think they had 2 actors. They were twins. One of them died during that shot.
And they just had to keep going.
And they didn't know how to do the practical effects for his makeup. So they're like, let's just let him die.
Yeah, so like she's really like fervently trying to tell them no, and he is not backing down at all. It's kind of where like a lot more of the sexism comes in, right? They're just like steamrolling. They're like, oh, you're a girl, you like us, right? We're Americans. That gives us the up and up, right? Really? He is the nicest of the 3, but they're still annoying.
Yeah, absolutely.
She eventually is like, okay, fine, meet me at this cafe, or like meet me around this place at this time, right? And then when they meet up, his friends are like, here, you got to look better, and they dress him like the biggest douchebag I've ever seen. He's got these like shitty sunglasses on, this baseball cap. She even says she almost didn't recognize him because he looked completely different.
He did look like an undercover FBI agent who's just like trying to do a stakeout. His friends don't help at all because they sneak in and hide behind a menu right behind her.
Yeah, and also as they were dressing him, they shove a shitload of condoms in his pocket.
They looked like Band-Aids.
Yeah, that eventually end up coming out accidentally and they're all over the table. And then there's a scene where he tells her that, oh no, it's gum.
Yeah, the condoms are gum.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to freak her out, obviously, right? He's like, my friend screwed me over. I have to find my way out of this. Oh no, in America, they have gum that looks like condoms. Yeah. And she makes him eat it.
Yeah, she's like, here, chew it up.
She's like, all right, prove it. And she's like, blow a bubble. It's like a custom in France to blow a bubble. So he blows a bubble with this condom.
Yeah, he does. He chews
a
on that
huge
condom,
one. And then it blows all over the building.
blows all over, like super Looney Tunes style, up in the air, lands. You can see in the background. I'm not gonna lie, as terrible as this scene was, it was probably one of the best scenes in the movie. Saying something, but like comically, it's like zooming around, lands in this big buff guy's soup, and then for the remainder of the scene, which is him just basically trying to talk her out of the fact that he's trying to have sex with her. You see this guy in the back, like, find the condom. A waiter comes up. He's like, what is this? Somehow they know it came from this guy.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I'm sure they probably watched as it was blowing around the room and he looked the most guilty of it, you know? Absolutely. And the girl's trying to tell him in French, like, oh, no, it's fine. He's okay. And then, like, they end up starting like a bar fight, but at a cafe fight. And this is your first instance of like, oh, right, I forgot this is a movie about a werewolf because she kicks the shit out of one of the guys.
She really does. She beats the living shit out of this guy.
It just, again, it feels like it wants to be a rom-com more than it wants to be a horror movie. Because then there's a sequence where after that, he's like chasing after her, running kind of superhuman speed because she's on a bike, like a bicycle. And he's, it just seems like he's walking, but like he's keeping up with her, right?
Yeah.
And just basically calling after her, like, no, please, like, I don't care that you're strong and different. It doesn't matter to me, right? And it was at this point that we turned on the subtitles because we hadn't done that at the beginning. There are so many moments where the girl, Seraphine, she talks, but it says in brackets, inaudible. But then afterwards it says the words that she said, like, it's like inaudible, but is completely audible. We can hear everything she said. There's no problem there.
Yeah, I literally have written the word inaudible like a dozen times in my notes because it's just funny to me that it just kept happening.
It's terrible.
One of my favorite things while he's chasing after her, she like goes off screen and he's like, do you work out?
Yeah, honest though. Like he's so bad at flirting with this girl. Because I feel like his intentions are true. I definitely don't think he's like just in it for like, you know, the sex of it. But he's just, it's so strange. So anyway, she escapes them.
Yeah, and easily.
Then, you know, after hearing that she doesn't want to be with him, he's like, well, we have to go back to her house again. So then he goes back this time. Now there's a like scary looking man.
Yeah.
Now there's a dude here. And again, there are just so many like dumb, like tropey things that they do to like make it very obvious that these are the case, right? So it's like, how do we make the Americans look this way, right? Obvious. How do we make this guy look like a bad guy? We're going to shave his head and give him a slit in his eyebrow.
Oh, that's right.
Clearly, this is going to be the villain of the movie, right? Or at least the main antagonist of it all. They ask her, like, is she around? And he's actually kind of cool. He's like, oh, yeah, I love Americans. Yeah, that's great, you know? And they're like, do you know Seraphine? He's like, let's just say I, like, take care of her or something like that. So, like, oh, cool. The werewolf's got a pimp. That's great. And then he's like, you guys should come to this thing. It's a great little party. And he hands them the shittiest designed flyer in mankind. This flyer was despicable. And it basically is like this full moon party that is happening at a nearby club or something like that, right?
Yeah. So they end up going to the party.
Yeah. And it looks bad. There
really
are like homeless people, like freaking out in the look like they're what is it, like with going through withdrawals in the front staircase.
It looked like an opium den, right?
Yeah, it looked very terrifying, but they're like, no, I'm sure this is cool. This is fine.
Cool. It's a nice party.
Yeah, like there's a light fixture in there that's supposed to be kind of disco ball-esque that looks like a saw trap. Like,
really though?
It's a bad scene.
And they're all just drinking like this green liquid out of a cup. It's like the green Jello.
Yeah, they've just been handed this weird, like, indiscriminate green liquid. And it's like, no, I'm sure that's
beer.
Fine. Yeah, so that's two of the friends end up going to the party. The third and probably douchiest of the guys ends up staying at the house to like scope it out and see like maybe she's not actually home, because that was what that was kind of what they were told, right? It's like, oh, sorry, Seraphine's not home right now. So they didn't trust that, right? So two of them go to the party. One of them stays back, and he actually looks through one of the windows and finds Seraphine is locked in a cage.
Yep.
And he's like, oh, cool, I'm going to break in here, right? Yeah. So breaks into the cage, and she's trying to tell him, you know, obviously, clearly we understand, like, she's a werewolf. She is locked in here for a good reason. She's trying to get him out of here. He's like, no, it's okay. I'm going to save you. And then he tells her that the guy and the other guy are with the bad guy, the evil slit guy. And she's like, oh, no, I got to go. And so I think she punches him.
Yeah, no, she, like, locks him in the cage.
Yeah, exactly. He, like, basically frees her, and she, like, knocks him out, locks him up in the cage, and then goes to rescue the guys, right?
But they had a little doggy dish in there, remember?
Yeah. So then, like, he comes to in the cage. There's, like, a dog bowl in there. It looks like the bed is made out of straw, and it's like, okay, hold on. This is a werewolf household, and you're telling me that the cage you have set up for yourselves is set for like a dog. Yeah. You put up a little bowl, a shitty bed, you know, it looks terrible in there. Yeah. Like, you wouldn't make that cozy at all for yourselves.
It's like a little, like, red like 1 foot maybe.
It looks like it has like a little bone on it too.
Yeah.
It's like, have some self-respect. So yeah, dude comes to in this cage, and then he looks across from him in the same dingy looking basement, and there's this like nasty looking white curtain hiding something that just sounds like Darth Vader.
It really does.
Derek literally goes, "Oh, Darth Vader is here," because you just hear this like this like nasty breathing going on from behind there. And then I knew it was going to happen because he was the douchiest one with the biggest muscles. They had to find some excuse to make this guy shirtless.
And he did.
And at first I was like, okay, of course he's going to be shirtless. I hate that. That's so stupid. It actually does make sense for him to take it off. He actually has a good use of it because he sees the key to the cage across from him on a pillar. So he takes off his chains, he takes off his clothes, and he's got like this chain on his Jinko jeans that he uses because he throws things at the key. It falls off onto the clothes. Then he pulls the clothes back to him. It was actually, I was surprised by this guy. He was quite resourceful. Oh yeah,
it was so dumb.
But yeah, it just it worked. It like actually worked. It really surprised me. So then we go back to the party, and things are getting a little scary. You know, clearly, like to us, we understand. Oh, there's a bunch of werewolves who have locked a bunch of people in here that they are going to now kill. So Seraphine finds them. She's like, "We've got to get out of here." Only rescues the one she cares about. He kind of leaves the friend behind, and she's like, she comes to him, and she's starting to transform now because it's a full moon, obviously. And so she's like, go through this weird hole in the wall for some reason that'll take you somewhere safe. And she digs her claws into him a little bit because I think he kisses her.
Yeah, they lean into a really romantic kiss at that moment.
At the worst time. Literally. Is that really the best time to kiss? She's literally like, hey, you're in huge danger right now. You've got to go. She's yelling at him. Then he's like, now's the time. Gotta kiss her.
Now's the time. Gotta kiss.
Kiss. And then she runs away, and then we have the transformation sequence.
Oh my goodness. This transformation was so bad.
So terrible. The CGI, oh man, it was just so. It was just upsetting.
It really was.
I have no other words about it. What's funny though is because when he, like before he runs away, he's like, I never understand women. Another
women.
Terrible line from him.
That's right.
But yes. So, yeah. Then she transforms. Everybody starts to transform. They start to kill everybody at the party. He's being chased out and then gets bit by a werewolf, and he ends up escaping through this little like tube that leads out into like a river or something, right? And then finally, at this point, we're at the point where we're like, okay, now we have the American werewolf in Paris.
He is an American.
Thank you very much.
He's a werewolf. He's in Paris.
Yeah, exactly. So there we are. Yeah. Where do you go from there? The wolves look terrible. There was too much skin, not enough fur, and then also not enough wolf features to them. They looked as if they had taken like the design of maybe a gargoyle and then added some hair to like the skin of it, like made it fleshy and gave it some hair.
I mean, that's what I was saying. I was like, these are just goblins that have really big muscles, and they're like walking on all fours.
They just look so bad, and they had eyes that looked more like cats than wolves. You know?
Oh yeah. So then he goes to sleep because he's, been bit. He's losing blood.
Yeah.
He wakes up in her bed. Ooh. So he wakes up and he's like, oh boy, here we go, And he doesn't know where he is. You see her, she's in the kitchen. She pulls out a bag of hearts and she takes the hearts and puts them in a blender.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Derek, while he's watching the scene, is like, don't put them in the blender. Don't put them in the blender. Don't put them. And then, she just blends up 2 hearts and brings it to him.
Yep.
Like, yummy breakfast drink.
Breakfast drink. He says that he doesn't like Clamato. He's like, no, I don't want Clamato.
She's like, this tastes different. That's what she says.
So then for the remainder of the movie, I called blood Clamato. Like, it was pretty much unstoppable at that point.
Kind of just looked like that.
But So yeah, she hands him the drink. He's refusing to drink.
She tells him he's a werewolf.
Yep. And he doesn't believe her.
No,
he's like starting to freak out.
Uh-huh.
And then, so what does she do? What calms you down when you're scared?
For me, it would be if the French girl I just met a day ago was straddling me and then just took her shirt off and put my hands right on her breasts.
Yes. And then said in an American accent, even though she's Paris, this is what calms guys down.
This is what calms guys down.
Yeah.
Clearly, right?
Clearly.
It does work.
It does work. Yeah,
on
he's
him.
like, but then he gets the wrong idea. And she's like, you're a werewolf. And he's like, oh, we're doing a Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, it's like, a little bit of role play here. And then he ends up having a bit of like a nightmare sequence where like that actually wasn't happening. And then she's coming back into the room. He's like, oh, I just had this dream that you told me I was a werewolf. Then she straddles him again. But this time when she takes off her shirt for like the quickest glimpse, it's just wolf body under
wolf
there.
body.
Furry wolf body, which was very funny.
They did make the point to give her 6 nipples. Yeah. I don't know
They're
why.
Accurate nipples. Maybe that's why I got the R rating.
That's it. 6 boobs all once.
That's what it is there.
We should note that there was no nudity in this scene. Really at all. You saw like the side of her boob.
And but she was covered up mostly by his hands, right?
Yeah.
So then he ends up like freaking out about it, and then her mom comes in, right? And at this point, we understand that her parents are dead, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. And then then you finally see her. She is like this decomposed, rotting corpse.
Yeah.
And it is now introduced in the story that werewolves can see ghosts.
Yes.
And these ghosts continue to rot every time you see them in the movie, which actually that was a pretty neat effect. I
love that concept.
That each time that you see them, they are more decomposed than the last time, right? Because the body is rotting somewhere, right? Wherever it is buried, which was also a neat thing that they had in American Werewolf in London, right? His best friend dies, and he's kind of bullying throughout the entirety of the movie. And every time you see him, he's just like he looks more and more like shit. I actually think the last 1, maybe 2 times you see him, he's actually fully like an animatronic thing.
Oh my god.
Because he's that decomposed, there's not enough human behind it. It's like, we can't do prosthetics anymore, you're too far gone, which is great. I love that. But yeah, so now it's introduced in this movie, like her mom is around and kind of giving her hell about this guy.
And I didn't realize it was a ghost until right now.
Yeah, Yeah, it was the ghost of her. It wasn't like a zombie walking around.
That explains why she like teleported.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, cool, zombie teleportation
she was there and
powers.
then she was gone. So yeah, then he escapes. He's like, this is too crazy for me. And then, he goes through the whole sequence every guy goes through at this point of their lives. Your body starts to change. Your voice gets a little deeper. Dogs start to hump you to indicate that you were a dog folk now.
So would you call this puberty?
Yeah, this is werewolf puberty.
I'm trying to think of lycanthropuberty.
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 Like Cooper. But yeah, no, there's a scene where he sees a dog, and the dog kind of takes notice of him, right? Because like, clearly he's one of them now, right? Mm-hmm. And it just starts to hump him. And it's terrible.
Hey, boy, you smell like canine.
And he's just kind of having a bad time. And then he's in this restaurant where he's like, I need the steak rare as can be, bloody, give it to me.
Yeah.
And then he sees this girl, which I didn't know until later. It's like, the only reason he goes for this girl that they describe as a bimbo is because he was a wolf, His dead friend comes to him now, and he's like, you would never have looked twice at this girl if you were in your right mind,
How did I miss that?
It's so weird.
That's so awful.
But he literally starts acting kind of like a douchebag to get with this girl for no reason. It's purely because he's feeling animalistic because of this. It's just so strange.
We should make note that this girl he's going after is the mom from Modern Family.
The mom from Modern Family.
She is
crazy.
She's going wild. I don't even know.
What's weird to me is the fact that his ghost friend shows up as they're having dinner, right? They bring this big platter out in front of him with this big dome on top of it. And Derek called it 3 seconds before it happened. He's like, oh, this friend's head's going to be in there for sure. And then there it is, right there on the table.
His friend's head for no reason.
And his friend is trying to give him information about things that he just would not have the knowledge to.
No.
Like either he would not or the friend would not have no knowledge to before he died, right? Because I feel like that's all a person would know, right? Is like what happened to them before they died. And he suddenly has all of this knowledge about you have to, in order to stop the curse, you have to kill the werewolf that turned you and eat its heart.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, he's also like, the only way that I can safely pass over to the other side is if you kill the werewolf that killed me.
Yes.
Right? So he's got all this information to give him, which makes for a fairly funny scene where he's talking to him in the bathroom and the guy's like, the hell's happening here?
Yeah,
he just looks like a crazy person, right?
So do you think when you die from a werewolf kill, you wake up in Wikipedia of werewolves?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you're kind of lost in this space of just information.
But it took him a while. I'm sure he had to filter through all of the different types.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of lore and information that goes through there.
And he just he singled it on this one. He's like, oh, cool. Eat the heart.
Yep.
That's it. That's the one.
Awesome. So he leaves with the girl, and then she's like, oh, I love Jim Morrison. And then they find Jim Morrison's grave. and have a whole like picnic on top of it. There's like tons of candles set up around it. He's kind of starting to lose his mind a little bit. Then they start to have sex.
But they're drinking wine out of her shoe.
Yeah, they're drinking wine out of her shoe. It's terrible. It's just the worst.
You kind of feel bad for this girl because she's just this sweet girl who's trying to have a good time, and then she's just going with whatever he's doing.
Yeah, and so then they start to get into the act of it, right? And she says, "You're hot. You're really hot.
You're really,
and then
really
he's getting, like,
hot.
actually really physically hot. And so he runs away from her, finds the closest fountain in the cemetery, and jumps into it. After which the water starts to bubble and boil out of it. Like for some reason, that's a new thing I haven't seen in any werewolf transformation scene. Is he gets hot.
Yeah, he gets so
and
hot.
You don't even see his transformation so much.
Nope.
Also, anytime someone transforms into a werewolf in this movie, they get this like nasty like veins coming up their neck.
Yeah.
They get this weird prosthetic that makes their neck look all thick with all these veins coming up. Their face gets all red. It looks terrible.
It's like they took skin prosthetic and put it over a neck pillow.
Yeah.
And then just shoved it onto their neck for that scene and then told them to just like clench their throat.
It looks bad. It looks so bad. Then he gets out of the fountain and shakes like a dog.
Oh, yes. So anyway, there's this detective who's like feels like something's going on because people keep dying. They find the like murder scene at the bar. He's following me around. He has this cute little dog with him, which upset me because I knew it was going to happen to the dog. And then they're like, he's there. He hears her screaming because she's now running away from him. She's actually super smart.
Yeah.
She's like spraying her perfume in front of Crits.
Yeah, when she first walked in, he calls out her perfume because now he has a great sense of smell, right? So he knows it. He recognizes that scent. So she's like going through different crypts and spraying them in places she's not going to be to literally throw him off the scent.
And it's incredible that she does that.
It's kind of incredible how resourceful a lot of them are throughout this movie.
Really, it didn't kind of match their personalities.
No, not at all.
But anyway, so she's running away from him. The dog gets away from his owner. He scares her. She's like, "Oh no, a small dog. That must be werewolf."
She just sees his shadow.
Yeah. And then werewolf escapes, kills both of them, wakes up, and the worst scene in the movie happens. It genuinely upset me. And I think that if I was in charge of ratings, this would have been the reason it was an R rating. He wakes up over the corpse of this dog. The policemen are there because they found it.
Yeah, they're arresting him.
And they pick up this like stuffed dead dog animal puppet thing, and they're like shaking it around. It was very offensive, honestly.
Keep in mind, though, the dead dog puppet looked better than the wolf ever did.
Yeah, it
which was very
realistic.
Yeah.
Which I think is why it was so upsetting. Because it really didn't need to be there. Yeah, it showed that he was shitty. But it also, the dog ghost never shows up.
No,
which would have been a really cool idea.
That's not consistent throughout the movie. It doesn't, like, I don't understand, like, who gets killed and when and why they get to see them. Maybe it's like an unfinished business kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's just like sometimes they come back as ghost zombies, sometimes they don't, right? It's so weird.
It is super weird.
So yeah, then there's a scene in the morgue where like the bimbo girl from the previous night is yelling at him about how dare he do this. It's really funny because they show like the bodies of the morgue. They show her body. It's like kind of like lacerated and looks good. They got some cool practical effects on that. And then for another one, they just lift the tarp and then lower it down. I'm like, what? You couldn't afford practical effects on two dead bodies?
Well, and it's funny because that guy never shows back up again, but she follows him around for the rest of the movie.
All the time she's nagging him about it, right?
But maybe that's why they didn't put makeup on the other guy.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we're not going to have him be a ghost.
No, it's
so
fine.
It's not. So then, another great scene. So it pans out, you see cops that are about to walk into the morgue to like interview this guy. And he gets inside of one of the drawers for the morgue, pulls it closed, and then the scene just transitions to him walking down the street.
Yeah, exactly. Because the detectives were in there because they wanted him to identify the body. Then they leave to talk for a second, leaving him alone in there for some reason. Then they come back in and he's gone. And they're clearly like, where could he have gone?
Where could he have gone?
I don't understand. And then, yeah, literally the next cut is him walking down the street talking to the two ghosts, the ghost of his friend and the ghost of the girl he killed, right?
Yep.
It's just like, well, okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. So then they get back to, I think they find out that the werewolves are like cultists.
Yep.
The one with the slit in his eyebrow kidnaps him, right?
Yeah.
And he basically tells him about how, like, there's a werewolf cult and everybody that's in it has been chosen. You were an accident. We didn't intend for you to be here. So he's basically like, let's put you through initiation, right? We've got this werewolf cult. We want you to join it, right? Then he shows him his friend, the shirtless friend from before, shirtless again. Yeah. And they're like, okay, to prove you're one of us, kill your friend.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And so then a little bit of a fight scene ensues between all of them. None of them are wolfing out. It's just a bunch of regular dudes fighting in a dungeon, basically.
And it's that whole scene. So anyway, he escapes.
Yeah.
He gets out of there.
It's got music like a goddamn like Tony Hawk game is how I would describe the music in all of this.
Really though. But like Tony Hawk 1 to 3, right? When it was like back in the old school cool guy rock music, punk music.
Yeah, so like we've got a lot into the semantics of this movie. We can fast forward a little bit, but like I do want to mention there's one great moment that I think Derek hated that I actually really enjoyed. There's a bit where the girl, the bimbo type, was trying to whistle for his attention. She puts her fingers in her mouth and whistles, and like blood spurts out of the side of her face, and it's great. Sometimes they use practical effects that looked pretty good.
Sometimes meaning twice.
Yeah, because then they used it there, and then she does it again, but covers up the hole, and she blows again, and this time her eye pops out of her head. The eye popping out was CGI, but the eye dangling after the fact was practical.
It was cool.
It was kind of neat.
And she was like holding it up to try and look better, which I did appreciate.
Yeah, it was pretty great. So basically, we get through a moment where the Seraphine and Andy, the main werewolf guy, now get together, and he finds out that her stepdad was working on a thing that basically made it so you could transform into a wolf whenever you wanted, despite it being the full moon or not, right? It's basically just like, it's depressants, right?
That's Xanax.
Xanax
not
makes
really.
You go wolf.
But like that's what they make you
But
think.
basically that, yeah, right? And so they're like, oh no, they've got this plan to like kill a bunch of American tourists. They're holding a party solely for Americans at this abandoned church somewhere.
It was a cool house.
Yeah, it was another cool house, right? And so they're like, okay, we're going to infiltrate them. They didn't really have much of a plan to stop them, did they? They're just like, we have to try to stop it.
We have to try to
somehow.
stop him.
Okay, sure. He comes in disguise in like a baseball cap and sunglasses.
Literally,
that's his whole disguise, and gets noticed almost immediately because of course you did. Why not?
The bouncer actually lets him in because he recognizes him.
Because at first he's like, okay. Like, you can tell he recognizes him. Walks into this like church club scene where Americans cannot dance. They're so bad.
These extras, I swear, were just like the bottom of the barrel, like,
so yeah, then
cheapest extras.
The cops show up and they're trying to stop the party. They take all of the cultists who are now at the front of the party about to, they're starting to inject themselves with the Xanax, right? And the cops start to handcuff themselves to the werewolves as they're humans. And then they I thought that was kind of a neat thing. It's like, oh, they don't know what's going to happen to them. So then, of course, they transform into a werewolf. They're handcuffed now to a full wolf. And they get massacred, of course.
Yep, everybody dies. One of my favorite moments is when you see their syringes, though, and they go to inject themselves, and it is a solid mass. Yeah. It's not even liquid.
No, it is it looks like they have oatmeal in there. It looks so bad.
It's so dumb. But yeah, so she's there, they're fighting, she's trying to save her friend.
Honestly, there's like not much to mention about this sequence beyond the fact that the cops are killing some of the wolves with regular bullets. It takes
no problem.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it doesn't take anything special to kill a wolf in this universe.
So upsetting.
Right? I know, with this lore, anybody can kill a wolf. So I mean, basically, what is there to say? There's a big fight that happens. He ends up like killing some of the wolves. He kills the wolf that killed his friend, so his friend can pass on to the other side.
Thanos is out of there. Spoilers for Endgame.
There's two wolves that are fighting. One of them is Seraphine. One of them is just some nondescript like goon wolf. Yeah. And they're having a fight. And Andy walks in, is like, oh, there's two wolves. Bang, bang, bang. Shoots them, not even thinking one of them might be his, like, girlfriend, I guess? Question mark?
Girl he likes?
Yeah, girl he likes for, like, the past 2 days now. So, yeah, so he shoots her accidentally. The other wolf is dead now. Oh, no, it's a normal guy. He goes, and she's like, now you have to kill me. You have to cut out my heart.
Cut out my heart.
And then he's like, he, like, raises it above his head. He's like, no, I can't do it. And then detectives come through, and he's like, get her to a doctor. You're gonna be okay. Then he runs out, has a fight with, like, the actual, like, the big bad werewolf, right? Who, another trope is like, he thinks he kills him for a second, he gets back up with ease. Yeah. That's another, like, villain trope right there, right?
Then we end up on train tracks.
We're on a train now. We're on, like, a subway.
I don't know how that even happened.
I don't know either.
But so he jumps onto the tracks. You see the train coming. It's going, like, maybe 2 feet an hour, right? And the wolf obviously jumps onto the tracks, gets hit by the tracks, and you're like, oh, it's all over, it's all safe. No, werewolf jumps through the window. We get a pretty decent kill of the driver of the train.
Probably the only interesting kill in the movie. That's what I noticed at this point too. I'm like, all of these kills have been like off screen and so uninteresting.
Absolutely.
None of them are very fun to watch or enjoyable at all.
So then he breaks through and he starts killing everybody on the train, and then for some reason he untransforms, and he bites into a woman, and I made the joke, I was like, oh, he's allergic to shellfish, and that woman just ate some shrimp, and he bit her, so she died.
Because then she dies. There's a little bit of a wolf fight, or like a fight scene there, but like not much. And then that's pretty much like all of the conflict in the movie resolved at that point.
It's just over.
Yeah, and then you actually find out that in that fight sequence, the main villain is shirtless. You see this big scar on him because when Andy in the very beginning was getting chased down by a wolf, he stabbed it through with like this big spike. And he's like, oh, you're the wolf that transformed me. If I kill you and eat your heart, I'll be good. So then, of course, that happens. So he's now no longer a wolf. Everything's good.
It's the easiest fix possible.
Really,
for this situation.
And then fast forward, basically, that nothing else happens that is interesting. Now they're getting married, and it's like, that's interesting, because she is still a wolf. She survived, I guess. She's fine. But even though she thought she was on death's door.
It did say several full moons later.
Several full moons
We got that big text on there.
Yes.
Someone got paid to write that, and they were very, very proud.
So it's their wedding day,
It's their wedding.
And they're in the dark, and they're like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, yes, of course. And then the friend, the macho, wait, we forgot the best part.
No, I'll talk about it. Don't worry about it.
You want to talk about it?
I'll talk about it.
Yes.
Don't worry.
That's incredible.
I'll talk about
I was howling with laughter.
I know what you're talking about.
We'll get back to that part. So anyway, the shirtless friend is there. He's got a haircut. He's looking nice. And they're like, yeah, we're ready. Give us the rings. Clumsy friend drops the ring
off the Eiffel Tower.
Chasing after this like CGI ring, and then they jump, and they are bungee jumping from the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. They're in America now, and they are bungee jumping with love.
So now it's a Paris werewolf in America.
A Paris werewolf. That just doesn't have the same ring to it.
I don't know. I could say it a lot easier.
Paris I guess that's fair.
Oh, dang it, no.
But yeah, so it's so cheesy, and like, again, how do they not check for this? Her bungee cord was not tied to anything, so the friend tries to grab it, but he misses. But it's okay because they're embraced in love, and he's holding her, and then that's the end of the movie.
The movie ends.
It ends.
It's over.
You want to talk about some trivia real quick?
Yeah, let's jump into our pros and cons first.
Oh, okay, sure.
And then let's talk about some trivia. So for pros, I just wrote inaudible in brackets. Because the whole movie... Yeah, no, I wrote more. I wrote that there was a Smash Mouth song.
Which was not credited in like the whole score of the movie. You can go find the album for it. Smash Mouth ain't in there.
Smash Mouth's not on there. And then, okay, Isaac just got excited because he remembered a scene.
It's so funny.
There is a scene in this movie that made me laugh, and I was on my feet cheering because I was so happy it happened.
Like, to set this up, they held the big party where they're going to kill all the Americans in that abandoned church, right?
It was a cool house,
And so, like, the main course of this meal is basically the macho friend again, is up on a cross.
Yep.
Basically as this big sacrifice.
He is literally being...
crucified
on this cross.
So, he's just tied there.
So there's this big battle sequence that's happening, and the cross gets broken at the base, and the door to the church finally opens.
Cool house.
And it's this slow motion sequence of this guy running with the cross still on his back.
And he's still shirtless.
He's still shirtless. His hair is blowing in the wind.
He's just running, dragging this giant cross behind.
Most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And if that wasn't enough, a cop gets out of their car, sees it, and prays at it.
They cross themselves.
They do the cross up themselves. I was dead. I was crying.
I was
with
absolutely howling. I was howling at this.
All right, what are your pros for the movie?
My pros, I did enjoy, like, I thought it was a neat, very new thing to do, like, oh, there's a way for us to transform when we want that is not in the moon, right?
Yeah.
To talk about like the cycles of it and like the adrenaline and such of it, using basically depressants to force yourself to wolf out. I thought that was a kind of a neat concept that I hadn't really seen in any other like wolf movie at all. And then I said I did like some of the uses of practical effects. They probably had the most effect on me, anytime you saw any of the corpses and like in their subsequent scenes, that you see them a bit more decomposed, which is like, looking more gangrenous and rotted. I thought that was really neat. I liked the scene with the girl whistling and such.
That was cool.
I liked some of the practical effects. There were practical wolves maybe twice out of all the CGI shitty ones.
And I couldn't even tell you which ones they were.
It was so sad. They should have just stuck with the practical one the entire time.
Then for cons, I just wrote basically everything.
I literally wrote cons, all of them.
My note literally says, the acting, the story, the characters, but mostly, you can't kill a werewolf with a normal bullet.
When has that ever been the case?
Why?
That's terrible.
Why? Who made that call?
So
I need to meet them.
So for me, like my verdicts for this movie is that I need an option below horrible. Honestly, I think we can call it awful.
Awful. That's pretty good.
Because it was just.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I had a great time.
Stop right now.
I think this movie for me is horrible.
Oh gosh.
I know that you're really upset, but I had a good time.
I can't call it that because it strayed so far from being a good horror movie.
I guess that's true.
Because I feel like that's, for me, that's what classifies as a horrible movie, right? It's like it belongs in the genre. This one does not.
Oh, yeah.
This Smash Mouth rom-com belongs somewhere else.
Oh, man. Well, I don't know. That's where I stand.
So this is our first divide on our verdicts here,
and
right?
it's a pretty big division, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Give me some trivia.
So Julie Delpy, who I believe played Seraphine in the movie, right? Now admits that the only reason she made the film was to pay her rent.
Well, that explains her accent.
Yeah,
because
honest.
30% of the time it was a French accent.
Very little commitment there, right? The cool house at the end, which we know as a church. The church at the very end was called the Saint de Loup, which is L-O-U-P, and loup is French for wolf.
Oh,
yeah, which is kind of a neat thing there.
That's cool.
I put this in there just because it made me curious. Despite the poor reviews, the film gained a strong cult following over the years, and I just want to know when.
I think the cult was actually in the movie.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, they were all in there, right?
I don't know. I can't get it. I would go and see this movie with a group of people.
I did find a bit that kind of touched on the fact that they were on the Eiffel Tower. So Tom Everett, who played the main guy, had never been to Europe, and he was talking about how he'd never left the country, so it was a really big, brand new experience for him. He got to work with all these special effects people. He got to climb all over the Eiffel Tower at night. They would shut it down from midnight to 6 a.m. for their production.
Oh, goodness.
Isn't that nuts?
That's insane.
Yeah, honestly, I thought that was really weird. One thing I did find really interesting, I'll just read it here. In a scene that was deleted from the movie, it was discovered that that the Werewolf Society in it, that cult, had been around for centuries, and the werewolf that attacked David Kessler and Jack Goodman, who were the friends in An American Werewolf in London, apparently that werewolf was once a member of this society.
Is that how they connected the movie?
That's how they were going to try to connect them, but that scene ended up getting deleted anyway, so...
Oh my goodness.
It's just so funny.
Well, that's it. Super excited to say that we've officially launched the podcast.
Yeah, we're out there. We've talked about it now.
There. People can check us out anywhere. So share the word, spread the word with your friends. Thank you for listening if you made it this far.
Yes, thank you so much. Honestly, the fact that anybody would want to listen to us for an hour at least, let alone a couple of them now, is just astounding to us. So thank you all so much.
We've had a great first week of like people getting back to us, giving us movie suggestions. If you have any more suggestions, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. And goodbye.